My Sister is a story about a dysfunctional family whose history is all based on mistruths and lies. And we follow the story of Irène, who is desperately trying to rediscover her history and work out why she wasn't able to stay with her family, why they sent her away. She has a sister called Elle, and she has spent her whole life avoiding Elle, but is lured back into the family home in a way of trying to discover the truth about why she didn't stay with her parents, only to discover that the truth is the worst thing about everything. That's much worse than being given away. I wanted to use sisters as the relationship for sisters because I feel sometimes the marital relationship, we are almost used to it going wrong now. The marital relationship is a contract that two people decide on, either in the eyes of law or in the eyes of religion, however you want to marry. But sisters is a relationship that it's supposed to be untouchable. It's supposed to be intrinsically trustworthy. It's the family that you're born into. And I think that because we're under the impression that sisters are supposed to be there forever, it was almost too much of a lure not to develop that as a domestic noir, because you can try to look at a relationship that's supposed to be unbreakable, and with sisters you can break it as much as you want to. It was an interesting way to look at toxicity in a relationship. I love the genre of psychological thrillers because I think that what we're able to do as readers when we read books in this genre is really connect with the characters in the stories in a way that we almost see ourselves with the characters. It could be our best friend, it could be our neighbour, it could be our own life, because generally in this sort of genre the people they're in situations that anybody could find themselves in. And I think that way we're able to identify with the characters so much more, and that really it creates that sort of tension within you wanting to read the story, because you can associate so much more with the characters. Irène is the main character in Sisters, and she's very important to me as a character. I very much wanted to tell Irène's story, but also her mother's story. Sisters at heart is about a family that was torn apart by a child having to leave the family home. And the reason it's personal to me is because my husband and I are in the process of trying to adopt a child, and I very much want to ensure that our child grows up with the knowledge that he or she wasn't given away because they were not wanted, they were given away for something better in the future. Scotland for me is a place that I really love. It's very close to my home country of England, part of the UK. And when I used to live in the UK, I was in Scotland, not often, but regularly. I could get in my car and drive there. I love it as a place. I love the wildness of the countryside, the mountains and the lakes. So Scotland is a place that's always been very important to me. But also, it was also a place that featured heavily in the things that I used to read as a teenager. I was very into Ian Banks. My first novel of his that I read was Complicity, and then The Wasp Factory, which was set in Scotland. So I was very aware of Scotland as a sort of place where you could set this dark story. And so for me, the environmental factors of Scotland really accentuate and complement the relationship between the sisters in Sisters. I think Scotland is very much a Gothic place. You can play up that element of the story very much. It's almost like in Wuthering Heights, the Moors become a character, and I think when you use Scotland in a novel which has a dark Gothic element to it, Scotland itself becomes the character of the book, and that was a really good element to bring forward as we developed the manuscript. When I first wrote the manuscript for Sisters, I did not anticipate that I would ever have a deal in France or a deal anywhere. As a writer, you obviously hope and you write with the intention that you would like to get published, but it's always that thing that looks to be a very, very distant dream. You never are entirely sure whether what you've written will be well received or whether people will enjoy it. So when I first got a publishing deal in the UK, that to me was sort of a wonderful moment. And then to go on to get different publishing deals in different countries, it all came as a huge surprise, and I'm very excited to be published in France. Thank you. My daily routine of writing is half and half writing and half science. I spend most of my mornings writing. I'm at my desk by about 8 o'clock, and I write until 3, 4 o'clock. But I also work in a medical practice as a physiologist in cardiology. So I also then, from sort of 4 until 8, see patients performing ultrasound studies and various things that they need doing as part of their healthcare. So I tend to work then in the evenings if I go home, if I have a deadline to meet, and the weekends get eaten up as well. Thank you.
Michelle.
Thank you.
Perfect.